Let's explore Simulanka together while I chat about my current thoughts and feelings about this year's summer event. Something that's been on my mind since I finished Simulanka's main story quest is it better than last year's summer event? But also, what are even my thoughts about this year's event anyway? These questions stem from the fact that I found this year's story quest, map designs, and character choices to be rather interesting, to say the least. So in the meantime, I reached into some of the dust-covered corners of my mind to remember back to last year, did a bit of Googling to fill in the gaps, and I think I found my answer. So let's get into it. I think the best place to start is the map design, as a summer update wouldn't be half of what it is without it. I do have to say that the map and landscape design for 4.8 is absolutely amazing. The sheer amount of times that I just had to stop and take photos because the area was so beautiful was absolutely insane. My favorite spot has to be on top of the mountain overlooking the castle, which is actually the thumbnail for this video. I spent a good solid 10 minutes looking around, changing the time of day, and taking a bunch of photos. In this area alone, I've taken more photos than I've ever did during my entirety of playing this game. That's how gorgeous that area was. I'll definitely show me getting to that area as well as looking around it later in the video once we get to that area. I also really love the whimsical fairy tale vibe of this place. The origami paper animals were so adorable, and the little toy people were really cute as well. This area almost feels like it's a mix of Disney and Pixar, which I'm not mad about. As for the map and landscape of 3.8, there were some cute areas, like the main area with the tents, and there was like this haunted castle area as well that I really enjoyed. However, that was it. There was no breathtaking moments or areas where I absolutely had to take some photos. I did, however, love the overall carnival theme that it had going for it, and I have to say my favorite element had to be the choo-choo train. Please, for the love of everything holy, bring that back once in a while. It was so much fun, or better yet, even make it a permanent feature within the game. I just absolutely loved traveling throughout the entire map while riding it, and also doing the challenges that it had. It was so much fun to ride, and such a unique way to travel throughout the map. I also had a lot of fun doing the challenges that were placed along the tracks. So please, for the love of everything that is holy, bring it back at least once. With all that being said, it comes with no surprise that I enjoyed 4.8's map over last year's, as not only is it stunning, but it just personally feels more lively. However, the one thing that 3.8 version had over this was the music. I don't know what it is, but the music in 3.8 just hits a lot harder. There were so many times where I would be exploring, and I would just have to stop and listen to the music that was playing in the area. Every track felt unique, but also cohesive at the same time, instead of just being background music to accompany the silence. Where in Simulanka, there were hardly any moments where I noticed the music changing, let alone stopping to listen to it. Most of the time, I didn't even notice that it was there. Most of the songs felt the same and felt like they were more of a background noise than instead of adding to the atmosphere of the area. The only song where I actively stopped and listened to it was when I was in the castle area, as there was a song that sounded really close to a part of Albedo's theme. I thought that I was hearing it wrong at first, and that was the reason why I stopped, but nope, it really sounds like Albedo's theme for a few seconds. I am hoping that this was done intentionally due to everything that we find out at the end of the story quest, instead of just simply reusing and remixing older music elements. I am hoping for the former, as it would be really cool and sort of kind of foreshadowing the events that have unfolded at the end of the story. I guess this would be the perfect time to start talking about my thoughts on Simulanka's story. 3.8 story is better. I said it, there's no going back. I have a lot of issues with this story. My main overall complaint is that it just felt lazy. Example, the beginning. How did the characters get to this world? I don't know. They just got mysteriously teleported here. How did they get teleported here? We don't know. Now granted, we did find out more information about that at the very tail end of the story, but it still felt lazy as basically all the characters opened the storybook at the same time. At the end of the day, there could have been a better reason for all of them getting teleported here, or at the very least, it could have been explained a lot better. Now, maybe this is all connected to personal preference, as I'm really on the fence when it comes to this sort of trope. Nowadays, it just feels like every story is an isekai, and it just feels so overdone and almost forced. I do think this trope is definitely interesting when done well. However, the beginning of 4.8 just wasn't it. Especially not only does it feel rather forced so that it could fit in with its current trend, but also the characters felt forced as well. None of them other than Nilou or Wanderer had any other connections outside of knowing the Traveler. This story quest would have been great to build upon different connections between the characters, like Karara. She travels around to Vat delivering packages. She could have had a few run-ins with Navia or Nilou, as they could have been outsourcing some goods from Inazuma or even other places. I know that they touch upon the fact that Karara delivers things to the Grand Bazaar, but that was it. They could have gone so much more in depth into that, but they didn't. They've already shown us that they can create meaningful connections and friendships between some of the characters, like the friendship between Amber and Kale, or the guardianship/parental relationship between Kaya and Klee. These kinds of relationships is what I love the most about these little side quests that we get almost every patch. But it sucks because they had an opportunity to add these types of connections and friendships to this quest, but they just didn't. Which is one of the main reasons why I love 3.8 as much as I do, because not only did most of the characters have a reason to be in Sumeru, like Kaya was looking after Klee, Eula was tracking down someone from the Lawrence clan, and Kale was just simply tagged along / she was their guide. Really, the only person that simply popped out of nowhere and really didn't make much sense to be there was Kokomi. Also, to add on to that point, pretty much all of the characters had some sort of already established connection with each other. Now, as much as 3.8 was definitely a huge step up from this year's, it wasn't perfect, and there's definitely room to improve. Like, I wish that they leaned a little bit heavier into the already existing friendships and build upon them as well. But even with all those flaws, 3.8 was still better than this year's. Also, speaking about characters, let's circle back to Karara for a moment. Because, where was she? I know that there's a side quest that goes into depth on where she ran off to, but still, it would have been nice to have at least a little bit of a warning, like a pop-up message or something, before going into the final act of the story. Because let me tell you, I didn't realize that she had a side quest. So once I got to the end of the main quest, I was actually quite pissed off because I truly believe that Karara basically only had 2 scenes and a handful of lines, and that she was basically just added into the story just to show off her outfits. However, even though that Karara does get a little bit more screen time than what I had originally thought, I'm still a little mad. And that's for a few reasons. One of the more minor reasons is that it feels a little bit inconsistent. Like, Nilou got a new outfit, and she plays a bigger role in the story, whereas Karara has a much smaller one. And then you have Wanderer, who I would personally say has a much bigger role than Nilou within the story, and he doesn't get an outfit. Or what about Navia? Yeah, maybe she doesn't have as big of a part to play, but she was still there way more than Karara was. Though I can simply chop all of this up to the fact that they always have one 5-star character skin and then give away one 4-star character skin within the summer patch. And that's why Karara got a skin instead of Wanderer. However, if that's what they wanted to do, then they could at least try to make it make sense within the story. Which leads me to the bigger reason why I'm a little bit mad. Having Karara play such a minor part in the main story is just lazy writing. Now, I don't have a major problem with the fact that she has a side quest, but she could have easily had met back up with us, and we could have continued to the next area of the story with her. Or better yet, they could lean a little bit more into the Puss in Boot character archetype. They could have had her trying to help collect the stars, or defend the castle from the monsters that were trying to invade it. I could keep going with the examples, but I think you get the point. At the end of the day, it's just bad or lazy writing. Also, speaking about the writing, what was up with most of the story being so bland and forgettable? Until you get to the very end. Like, I kid you not, I'd forgotten most of what had happened. And not only did I play the event myself, but I also watched 2 other people play it, and I'm still having trouble remembering everything that went down. I remember little bits and bobs about the story, like it was cute, whimsical, and it truly felt like listening to a fairy tale story. And then of course, the usual crisis in each of the areas that we visited. but in all honesty, I remember more about exploring the areas and finding the chests than what happened in the story, which I'm really sad about. As someone who truly enjoys the quests in Genshin, both voiced and unvoiced, I always look forward to the new quests that come with each new patch. So I'm really disappointed that I didn't enjoy this quest. However, on the flip side, sorry, but a story shouldn't be that boring that you forget about it. Especially not only after playing the quest for yourself, but watching other people play it as well. Now, before I start talking about my thoughts on the ending, I do want to have to say one thing first. Something that I've been seeing a lot lately, and something that makes me a bit mad, is just because a story ending is good doesn't automatically make the entire story itself good. It's like recommending a 500-page book to someone, but then turning around and saying to the person that the story only gets good in the last 100 pages. Like, who's going to waste their time trying to get through 400 pages of boring and forgetful writing just to get to the end? Which leads me to my thoughts about Simulanka. The ending itself was good, interesting, and even cute at some times. I'm really glad that we're getting more lore not only on the Hexen Circle, but also Wanderer as well. I love that we're getting to see Wanderer grow as a person and start warming up to other people. It's another small thing that I love seeing within these little quests that we get each patch. I really love seeing characters grow and change as a person. And once again, however, I would love to see at least a few more characters going through some sort of character arc like Wanderer, but I can settle for what we have now. Now let's get back to my thoughts about the ending. I'm definitely intrigued and excited to see where they're going to take the possibility of Durin rising again. I think I'm more excited about that possibility and where the story could go than the actual information that we ended up getting within this patch. However, as much as I love the ending and I'm excited for the possibilities that it opens up, that still doesn't change the fact that the majority of the story was boring and forgettable. Though, what about 3.8? How does the story compare to this one? Even though that it's been a year since we stepped foot in that domain where we were greeted by carnival tents and music, colorful balloons and boxes covering the boardwalk areas, and the blue hair and blue eyes NPCs, I still remember quite a bit of last year's summer event. I remember the NPC brothers that were chronically arguing with each other, how the member of the Lawrence clan got trapped within the big tent, and of course, the bittersweet ending, where we find out all the people in the domain were just copies of people who once stumbled into it, and over time, each of them left to continue trying to fulfill their wishes. So, unlike 4.8, where the story was so forgettable that I can't even remember parts of what happened only a few days after playing the event, 3.8 story was the complete opposite. I also remember thoroughly anticipating the release of each new act and logging in once the new act got released. And then I remembered once the final act was finished. I just sat there for a few moments, taking everything in. And then a bit of sadness hit me, because the story was over. We'll never get to see these characters, never step foot in this domain again. However, even though that I thoroughly enjoyed the story, there was one thing that I disliked about it, which was that it spoiled the fact that everyone in Fontaine was made of water. It sucks because that was such a huge reveal within the Fontaine story, and if you had already played the summer event, then you already knew that fact before Fontaine was even released. Which I'm going to give points to 4.8 as of right now, because it seems like there wasn't that huge of a lore drop on what could potentially happen in Natland. However, because Natland hasn't been released yet, we don't know how the summer event story is connected, or if it's even connected in the first place. I'm really hoping that 4.8 didn't spoil anything. The only thing that I could think about was the stuff that was hinted at with Durin, but who knows. However, at the end of the day, this is just a game, and we play games to have fun. So, did I have fun playing 4.8 summer event? Yes, I did. Even though that the story quest was lackluster until the very tail end, being able to run around this gorgeous map, trying to find all of the chests and playing the challenges that were sprinkled around this place, the Easter eggs of the different references and memes, was what made this event fun to play. And though I'm sad that I didn't enjoy the entirety of the event, I'm still glad that I got some enjoyment out of this patch. So, I turn this question over to you. Did you enjoy 4.8's summer event? If you did, I'm really glad that you got enjoyment out of this patch. because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And if you like this discussion video, you might want to check out my other video where I discuss my thoughts on the new endgame mode, Imaginarium Theater. And don't forget to subscribe, that way you'll never miss out when I release a new video. So, until next time, see ya!